Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It is Monday. It is September the 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it really was all downhill today. We had a little bit of we got stuck a little bit sideways here just prior to the open into the first maybe 30 minutes of the open. And then it was off to the races. I wouldn't even say probably in the first 30 minutes, maybe the first 15 minutes of trading. And then it was off to the races. There's a bigger brown two-tiered channel here that I wasn't really that sure about. It looked good off the high here, but you couldn't find anything off the bottom that really looked like it was matching up until after 9 o'clock here. Once we kind of bounced along there a few times and then found resistance on the other side, then you pretty much know, hey, this is definitely legitimate. But early on, it looked good off the highs, but I couldn't make it match off the lows. But there's a shorter term one here that looked much better, shorter term. And so it's still a spiking channel. There's even a shorter term channel here working down as well. So there were several different ways to see it early on. Notice this one coming down. You get the break, move to a new low and a correction. You've got the two-tiered blue channel here working down. You get the break. We tried to make a low there, but it bounced off this midline, went back up and turns down right off that line. So then you know, hey, there's something going on here. I better pay attention to this line after all. And starts running down, and especially once it starts finding resistance on the other side, you know you're going lower most likely. And this thing takes on off. But then you get another two-tiered channel on the way down here. So, you know, you could use the shorter term ones even if you didn't see the big one, but it really helped to see this bigger two-tiered from here on because it set some nice, this is a key entry point down through here, and it set up some really nice trades. And so if you found that and saw that, it was really, really helpful. Even without it, there's still other reasons to take some trades in here, which we can talk about, but hopefully you can see that it's a spiking channel, and there's multiple different shorter term and longer term channels, and then the corrections as well. But anyway, let's back out so we can see it a little bit better and talk about the trade. I did want to share something though. I got a chart, not a chart, I'm sorry, an email today. Actually, he did send me a chart with it too. But I wanted to read his email because it really strikes home a point I try to make quite often. I'll just read his email to you here. It says, "Hey Mac, hope all is good. Today's chart, 10.5 points in the bag, done by 8:47 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And when I'm done with this email, I'm off for a bike ride. Patience, wait for price at key levels with the trend. Discipline. When prices reach that key level, wait for the setup. Traps are always good. Trade setups, take it. Trade does not set up, do nothing." In other words, he's saying if the trade sets up, then go ahead and take it. If it doesn't set up, then don't do anything. He goes on to say losing trades are often forced trades. Successful trades are often trades waited for, where you use your patience. Good stuff, Mac. And he puts his name there. Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot, and it's amazing how often people do not hear it, but then occasionally the light clicks for somebody and they hear it and it starts to make sense and they use it in their trading and suddenly it changes everything for them. So that is the goal, to be done early so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's what got me into this. I talked about this, I think it was last week sometime, is that, you know, I got tired of a corporate job where I was working 60 and 70 hours a week, and you know, I got paid well, but I didn't have any life. And, you know, I missed my kids growing up, and, you know, missed all my son's ball games, missed my daughter's cheer and stuff like that. And so I decided to become a trader. And once I did, once I left that corporate job, my son's junior and senior year, I saw every ball game he played in, and it was great. It was, I mean, I get emotional thinking about it, how great it was. It was, it was scary at first to not have that paycheck anymore, and having to rely on something different to bring a paycheck in. But I can tell you that it is well worth it. So, and even if it's not trading, if there's some way you can get out of that rat race and work for yourself, especially if you can do it and free up time, there's not a lot of businesses that you can make the kind of money you make in trading and have the kind of free time you have. So that is kind of unique. But I know there's other ways out there and people do it. So if you can find a way to get out of that rat race and support yourself or support you and your family and have that spare time, man, it will mean a lot to you. I know it did me. So again, I get a little emotional just thinking about it, and that's the honest truth. So I've been really blessed, and we'll leave it at that, and we'll start talking about the trades. And let's back out just a little more here. As you can see early on, we had some support here. Wasn't sure if we'd get through there or not, but really not long after the open, we broke on through. You don't know what's going through here, but you got enough reasons to take a short off that blue line there. And even the red line, if you got enough reasons to take that, because really your first couple of swings here, I'd probably call this my first couple of swings on this red line or brown line. And this really confirmed it right here. Which was the first two lines on this, but the real key here is the small range here, and notice all the resistance across there, and you got a double bottom and prices bounced here again. I didn't like going short here. I'm sorry, I didn't like going long here because even though it's a nice setup and even there's a little bit of a trap, we don't have a new low in, and this was a pretty strong move down, and so there's a chance that we're going to do exactly what we did here, bounce around a little bit and then break through. And you can notice that we're making kind of a lower highs. This was a lower high in here. Notice the closes are lower. And then finally we make this lower high and you get this big bearish bar here. So a nice chance to go short. But anyway, the first trade I saw is working up. This one was a little iffy. It's tempting to go short right there. But the reason that you can't go short yet is look at this trend line working up, and prices, there's no doubt that's a valid channel working higher, and it's dangerous going short right there. And this is your first break of this main trend line right here. So it's really tempting to go short. But I like this for a long. And because it's a short trap, and at that point I thought, hey, it might end up being a range day. But this, like I said, this is a fairly strong move down, and it's always a chance that we may make another leg down like that. There's also another, I don't have it on there because it really didn't come into play too much, but there's even a shorter term trend line down through here, and there's a break in new low. And so that's another reason why I didn't like going short here, because what if I'm wrong on this other one? I don't believe that I was, but what if I am? And we know this one looks correct here. I'm going to make this. And you can see that one working lower. We get the break, move to a new low, and then we start working higher. The biggest key, though, is that this is a very tight and obvious channel working up here. Prices are playing off both sides, and that's what I call prices fitting in there neatly. You'll hear me say that from time to time. But anyway, hopefully you didn't go short there, even if you didn't take the long. And the long is a little bit, it is rather close to this right here, to this previous resistance. So I still marked it green for those reasons. Normally this would be a blue all the way, but I did mark it green because it's a little bit aggressive. It's into this resistance. You probably would want to use a limit order here. And if you did, you could have gotten filled all the way back, 2 ticks back in there, because it came back again right here, and then it pushed on up. So either way, even if you use a stop, it worked. You had to ride this out. You might have gotten shaken out if you use a stop. And then it was just as tempting to go short right there, But again, you don't have a break of this, so I think you're better off to wait, and then it pulls back, and guess what? Then you get a real confirmation of that resistance when it turns down again right there, and it closes inside this line, although you may not be sure about this line because nothing fit really on the bottom. It fit right here, but this wasn't working out really. So I really was looking more at the blue and had kind of written this red line off for the most part. It does come back into play and it does prove to be valid, but at that point I wasn't too sure about it. I was playing the shorter term stuff with the range across here and the two-tiered blue channel working down. So that's what I was looking at. But this was a nice failed break higher, turned down off that resistance. Actually, this is a second entry off the failed break higher because this is where it broke higher and failed. And I didn't like taking the first entry there, but when it comes back and gives you that big bearish bar on the second entry, I like that. And this turns out to be a pretty good trade. And then it's coming back. You get a second entry here, but look at the signal bar. It's not very good. We just came off the low. We're not back to the high. We're not back quite to the blue trend line. There's a lot of, there's not a lot, but there's a couple of bars stacked up. So I think you need to wait. And when it turns up higher, I still don't even like that bar. But when this one closed real bearish, I liked when prices either putting a stop below it or waiting on prices to break lower and putting the stop back where it goes. And it did pull back just enough to feel that too. So, and then it takes on off, and you would have caught a runner here. That's the sweet thing about this. You know, you got to assume it may bounce there, but guess what? It just pulls back and gives you a little breakout pullback short. I don't like entering that breakout pullback short. There's not a very good setup there. There's a failed second entry long here, and it went higher first and then turned down. So you could have considered entering here. In fact, I'm going to give it a green one. The main reason I didn't really like circling this one previous is because hopefully you've got a runner going here, and you know there's no need to add on there when you got a runner going. And this is another spike in channel down, and you really didn't have a good trend line yet. In fact, if you took the shorter term trend line, which there was one working right through there, then you got to break in a new low in place, and this is going short right into the low. So it's not a great setup for that reason. I will give it a green one because it's a trap. It's a failed second entry long because this is a new swing high. It's higher than that one. So there's some people that probably going to get trapped to the long side here. It just keeps working lower. But notice how all of these are real close to the previous low. So I don't like marking any of them. This did confirm the trend line here. So this one was tempting, but it's a first entry. It's not a perfect bearish bar. I mean, it's mostly bearish, but it's not a ideal bar. And then this is more of an ideal bar, but it's so close to that low. At this point, you might have considered this being a really strong trend down because it is moving pretty good. So for that reason, I'll go ahead and give us another green one. But I think it's aggressive going that short and that close to the low, because this is what usually happens. It turns down and it gets stuck like that and it bounces on you. Just didn't do it this time. You got a trend line right there. So I'm going to give them both green. I think they're a little bit risky. But if you just wait, you get a better opportunity here. Notice that those three bounces, we pull back. Get this out of the way. There's a first entry short there, a pullback, and then your second entry short right there. That's a fairly bearish bar. It's got that little double top, and there's a little failed tick higher that's probably going to trap some people. And so I like that one. Figured we'd move on to a new low there, but it did not happen. And you probably should go ahead and have your resistance across here. You see that? Right across there. There's some resistance. It's actually a tad lower than that. line straight for one thing. But anyway, it breaks higher, it traps people, moves down. It gives you another one here. This bar is too big. I didn't like that one. It's too close to that low. But then it pulls up, it turns up and gives you a failed second entry long, and it turns down right off that again. You might have considered a limit order here, but because it's a trap and there's enough room to get out, I'm okay with just using the stop on that one. And it is a quick, easy move. Now, notice it pulls back there and gives you this big bearish bar. But look where it is. It's right into this. I mean, you just don't have much room there. And guess what? That's what happens. It touches that low and bounces. And that's why I didn't like taking most of these down through here, because that's usually what happens right there. And people watch it do it all the way down here, and it works. And they say, next time it does that, I'm getting in. And they get in here and it bounces. So just stay away from those trades. You're better off to stay away from them. Let's go ahead and put you can see that support across there. It bouncing every time it touches that. But then you get the failed break higher, but the main thing is it turns down right off that trend line again. Now this would be the first break of this blue two-tiered. Here's your trend line, your midline, and your trend channel line. And we do get a break. We actually got a break here, but we didn't quite get a new low. We made a double bottom instead. It's tempting to go long right there. And actually, I wouldn't be too averse to you taking a long there, because it is a pretty obvious strong support and across there. It's really aggressive, but I'm not averse to those guys that are able to read the chart really well and like taking a little more risk taking that trade. Then we come up, we actually break out here. We get the failed break higher. It's a second entry on top of that. Notice there's no breaks lower. There's a first entry pullback, and I guarantee you they trapped a boatload of people looking for a breakout pullback long here, because they're not paying attention to the bigger picture and seeing this red channel. But more than anything, realizing that, hey, this is a trading range right here, and this is a break higher, and we're probably going to pull back and test that, even if we're going to go higher first. And look at that big bearish bar. I'm okay going short right there, to be honest. But if you wanted to, you could wait on this one, and I just put a stop below that one. So this is a nice bar, and you got plenty of room back to the EMA. Still got really enough room back to test these highs. And this one takes off. This is another one of those that just works in your favor and takes off. So you catch runners on this. You don't know it's going to do that, but that's why, on these type trades, on big trend days, we try to hold on to some runners, because this is what happens. And look how far it goes. You can just take this all the way down, trade it as far down as you want to go until you feel like you need to exit. There's different reasons for that, and that's the reason I don't teach that, is because it's more personality driven, and there's different ways to manage those trades, and so you need to go with the one that works with your personality. So, but anyway, we're working down. There's actually a short-term trend line right down through here, and this is the first break of it. And notice the new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. That's a big bearish bar. It's right off that midline. You figure at this point we're probably headed to here. We ended up going there, but it took a little longer than I thought it would probably shoot right on down. I was wrong, but either way, it's still a quick, easy trade. Then you pull back, first entry, pull back, and you get another second entry right off that midline. And this one, I think you're better off because it's it's still a bearish bar, because it closed on the lower third of this bar. But I'd probably use a limit order. I'd wait on it to break lower and drop me a limit order, and notice what happens. A lot of traders must be thinking that same thing, because it breaks lower and it pulls back and gives you a chance to get in, and then it goes lower. And then you get the failed second entry long here, because this was a new swing high. And so that's your failed second entry long, and look at that. It goes higher and turns, it goes out. Big bearish bar. Just goes short there, and it just keeps on working down. And this was actually a breakout pullback short because this is another little trading range, almost two, although we are making slightly lower lows really. Um, but I don't like going short there. This one's too close to the low. This one pulls back, and it is right off that midline. And we haven't really reached the low again yet, so that's why it probably hasn't bounced. But I don't like the setup here. It's a first entry. If you draw your shorter term trend line, there's no break of it yet. So I just don't like entering there. I'd be more apt to enter on this one because notice it's a new high, first entry, pullback, second entry. So it's a failed second entry long, and it's a big bearish bar right off the EMA, but we didn't get back to that midline. Even though we are still looking for it to push lower because we haven't quite touched that lower line yet. And you might think, well, maybe you're off, but look, this is fitting pretty nicely over here. So I would expect us to get down to it. And notice we didn't quite get there then, but we did here, and then it heads to the other side. So I like this one. This is a new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. It's right off the midline, right off the EMA, a big bearish bar. We didn't quite have a break of this, but this really trend line was not confirmed yet. There's probably more of a shorter term one right up through there, and this is basically a close outside the new high. So this one looks valid, but we really never got a confirmation. You got your first couple of swings there, and then you got a break. So I wasn't so sure about it. So when we got another second entry short right here, right off the midline, I like to go in short again. Notice the new low, pull back first entry, pull back, and there's your second entry. And it's right off that midline. We've turned down off of it 1, 2, 3, now the fourth time. Another quick, easy move. There's a breakout pullback short type setup here again, but I don't like taking it. It's not a very good setup. And then notice your new low. Pull back first entry, pull back. There's a second entry right there, but the signal bar is not very good. So you better wait on this one because there's a good chance that maybe we go all the way back up to this line, even though we haven't touched this lower one yet. That's what you're looking to happen before you go higher, but sometimes, prices don't always do what we think. So this was a failed second entry short, but I don't think you want to go long into that trend line right at that EMA. You better just sit tight. And so when it turns up and then turns back down, I like that one for a short. It's a relatively bearish bar. You might wait on the break lower and drop a limit order and see if you can get a little better entry. I know you could have gotten at least a tick better than using a sell stop below it. Probably even two if I remember correctly. This thing rockets down, pulls back, and gives you a bearish bar here. This one should have been green. I meant to make that one green because you want to use a limit order here. There's a little bit of congestion right there, but this is right off that trend line. We touched off of it twice. I liked waiting on it to break lower and then using a limit order a little further back, and you could have gotten filled on it. And then it pulls back and gives you the failed second entry long right at the midline on this. And again, you're looking for it to come down here, so you got plenty of room. It is really close to this, so looking back at it, that's a little bit aggressive probably. Probably should be green. But I was really treating this like this is a breakout pullback short. I was treating this more like a double test of that breakout and then continuing lower. And we are starting to really move on down, but it's the confirmation right off that trend line as well. And that's the big bearish bar. So this is actually your signal bar. This is actually your signal bar, but this is the one that set the trade up. So what I like doing is wait on it to break lower and then coming back here a little further with a limit order And even if you use a stop, it would have worked. But that's a dangerous spot for a stop. So this really should be green as well. And you did get a close outside too. So now you got a new low. So I don't think it's worthwhile to take anything else. Um, Even though we aren't down to this bigger channel yet. But look what happens when we get to it. It bounces right where you would expect. And we're headed higher. But that got you. You didn't really get a failed second entry short till way up here, and that's right into the 2 o'clock hour. We've already had a break and a new high in place, so I didn't like taking along there. Excuse me. I think you're better off just to sit out of this, even though there's almost an hour before the close. You know, by the time we get in here, it's 30 minutes. Then right in here, it's only a quarter of an hour till 15 minutes till 2 o'clock, and you don't want to be trading after 2 o'clock, especially now the market closes at 3 instead of 3:15. So, but good trading day. There were so many good trades here. You know, that's just don't risk anything. Just like the email I read you earlier, just be patient and wait on the good setups, and you don't have to take all those really risky ones. You know, so. But it was all downhill for the most part. We had a few little consolidation areas where prices kind of consolidated a little bit before moving lower, and that's normal. Um, you'll see that sometimes, although sometimes it just be straight downhill. I talked about it in the midday chart this morning, but if you can remember back on August 24th, we had that low. I believe it was around 1830 or so, and my guess is that based on the way price action works, we will probably retest that before prices rally again. And we could even go lower. I mean, but my guess is we're going to retest at 1830. So maybe that's where we're headed now. It's only about 40 points away. So I've got a sneaky suspicion that the sell-off is not done yet, at least till we retest that low. And we could go further low. So we just have to wait and see. But no doubt about it, today was a very bearish day. And so really, you notice there's, other than a couple of longs, aggressive longs early, there's just not anything but shorts in here. And that's the way it should be. Don't risk those, counter trend trades on strong trend days. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We're about 30 minutes into this. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope your weekend was great and that you got a nice rest and you're ready to go this week. And we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. So it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.